How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of King Sales, the podcast series where we help you transform trauma into triumph. Today, I got a very special guest joining me. He is a St. Louis native. He's a pioneer. He is a fashion icon. He's doing a lot of great things in his community. So, without further ado, I'll allow Mr. Jermaine Holt to introduce himself to you guys.
What is going on, all people of King's Tales? What's going on, Mr. Rex? Hope all has been well with you, sir. Hope all is well with the audience. But yeah, I am Jermaine Holt. I wear a pretty good amount of hats, but I'm only going to talk about the main ones. I was like, I am a speaker slash consultant slash pending author. I say pending because the books are written, but you can organize that information all you want, but you got to figure out a way to distribute it in a way that's strategic to get to people. So I say pending because I haven't taken on the mindset to know how to fully do that well. But that's pretty much a look into me. I was like, I do have my passions for fashion. I have my passions for fashion, speaking, as well as community service. Those are my main areas of fulfillment. Just just blessed to be able to utilize my gifts in a way that would build up the body, both inside the church house and outside the church house, because we got a corresponding responsibility to do both, contrary to popular belief.
You look, you're already Bro, I'm telling you, like, I need you guys to understand, like, even before I hit the record button, like, we were literally sharing some gems back and forth. And I feel like that's a really good segue to start with the first question. So you mentioned the importance of not only doing the work inside the house, but outside the house as well. Because one thing that we learned at our church is the importance of doing the work outside the four walls, right? Like a lot of people get so caught up in preaching and delivering services, and you don't realize that there's marketplace ministry as well. So with regards to your passions and what it is that you're doing now with consulting and motivational speaking, how did you find yourself doing that?
Pretty much just to go into it, like my first introduction into speaking really came from I had a father that was a pastor, so I always seen it as a kid, but I didn't watch my father pastor people and receive inspiration at all. I actually didn't want to do that because I watched the responsibility that came with it. I was like, sir, I'm good. That's your thing. That's your thing. I'm gonna just be an athlete. What happened was, I turned 19. Right, I experienced a season-ending injury as a track athlete. I was in junior college at the time, and everybody already understands if you was an athlete and you experience a season-ending injury, that means there's months where you don't get to train, you don't get to compete. In comes the identity crisis. Who am I outside of this sport? Because I don't know who I am right now. Because my whole life since the fourth grade, I was doing something.
Mhm.
And my coach, he actually would pull me to the side with my injury, and he was like, he was trying to be sympathetic to the fact he's like, look, it's a sophomore year. You only get 2 years in JUCO, then you got to go on. So it's like this is a very shaky period. But he said, Jermaine, the team still needs its leader, despite the condition that you now have. And I'm looking at him like, I don't understand how else I can add value beside the use of my athletic gift. And so as I was going into it, I was raised up, obviously with parents that taught me the word. And so I hadn't cracked that Bible open in a minute, but I said, you know what, we ain't doing nothing anyway. So I crack open this Bible, and instantly I began to experience this feeling, and I just did not understand how to articulate the feeling of it, but I just began to get inspired with its words, and it prompted me to begin to share what I was reading from the word that I did believe would add value to my team more from a motivational perspective. And
Mm.
so from there I was more just kind of like the mindset guy. I'm just here just giving y'all encouragement, da 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 da. But it turned into, it's like, Jermaine, this is actually impactful on people. Like, your words create movement. That's not normal to me. Words creating movement. If we have a desired movement that will contribute to a team winning, then you need to keep speaking them words.
Mhm.
And so from there, I began to recognize, it's like, Jermaine, maybe your gifting might be in the area of orating. And so I was like, okay. I was like, so that's what really got me into speaking. But then, as you mentioned, the marketplace side, speaking was never something I thought you could really get compensated for. Obviously, you grow up and you watch the Eric Thomases, you watch the Inky Johnsons, and you hear the Les Browns, you watch the YouTube videos, and I just kind of assumed that I was like, yeah, you got to get older before you can actually make a business out of speaking. Because at the age I'm at, it's like, what do you really have to say? But I started to realize that when you have a natural proficiency in any area, that means that you can add value that people are willing to invest in. And so
Hmm.
that's really where I started to become open to the idea of let's actually do this but charge. And so I actually got my first engagement. I was speaking at 19. I didn't have my first person willing to pay me to speak until 23. So there was 4 years of just doing it for free because most people, oh, he did it instantaneously. He young. I was 19. For 4 years, we was like the same emotion that someone would see me have on a stage during an actual paid engagement. I had that when it was two people on an Instagram live. I had that when it was literally three people just sitting across a table and we would just be exegeting the text. The same emotion and passion was literally present because it was kind of like prophetic passion. I was like, I am
Hmm.
literally talking not from the standpoint of where I am, but I'm literally talking from where it is that I'm going. And so it's like the version of me that you're gonna see over there is the same version that people was like, he was like that at 20. And it was just two of us in a room. Just imagine. So that's really what, segued me into speaking, I would say. Injury. The worst day of my life allowed me to make one of my greatest discoveries, I suppose, which is a funny paradox, but it's just such a God thing.
Right. And that's so, I mean, you made a lot of really good points there. I think the main one that stuck out to me is that whole identity crisis. When you're so used to being this one person and then it's taken away from you, how do you restructure yourself? How do you rebuild? How do you reshape yourself? How do you reimagine it? And it's one of my favorite stories in the Bible is the story of Gideon and how he was the youngest and the least tribe in all of Manasseh, and God was able to use him to be a great leader to guide these people and to defeat their enemies.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't realize the power that you have within you until you're put in that situation. And so I think that there's great value in what it is that you just shared, because I guarantee you there's other people that are athletes or were athletes that are struggling with that identity crisis that can hopefully, do the same thing that you did, pick up the Bible, do a little bit of reading, pray a little bit, cry out some of that frustration, and God will reveal what it is that they specifically need to do in order to get to where they need to go.
Oh yeah. That's so true. I mean, really just getting taken out of you got to get taken out of that box. I mean, and honestly, it's really so valuable that if it happens earlier on in life, because once you're whatever was giving you identity, if you lose it and you're still alive, you begin to understand, oh, well, that means my identity can't be placed in that because I remain who I am. Like, even the fact that I've remained influential, even though I was unable to run, was an indication that it's like, Jermaine, who you are as an athlete is not the most impactful part of you on this team. It was really like you had to get injured in order to receive that revelation. Like that
Mhm.
just so it's definitely, like I said, even to your point, it definitely is very valuable if it happens sooner than later, because I have seen the back end of it where there are athletes who college they have the professional aspirations and it doesn't pan out, which so many of us think that if we don't go pro we failed. So
Right.
dude, you literally competed at an institution where only 1% of people actually get to. Statistically, you weren't even supposed to be here. It's like, are you aware of the amount of goodness, grace, and mercy that had to be following you all the days of your life, and the God that had to go before you to ensure that you would arrive in this place for 4 years? And you think because of one outcome that did not come to pass, you failed? God has been prevailing in your life for a while for this to end in failure. I'm so sorry about it, but it's one of those things where they're thinking about, okay, well, like, who am I now? And it has been a struggle of trying to really walk with guys through, okay, how do you put up, like, how do you put this up now and move on with your life to understand that your best days are not behind you? I think as an athlete myself, that's the idea and belief I've had to really combat is my best days are behind me. Like, oh, back in college when I was an athlete, it's just like, Jermaine, we go from glory to glory.
Hmm.
Now, if we believe this to be true, if this is true, then this ideology that you have that your best days are behind you cannot be from Christ. It's not consistent enough with His word.
Mm-mm.
So it's definitely, but it's a struggle. I will say, it's still a struggle.
Absolutely. And so like I obviously, you have over 900 posts on your Instagram page, and I was going through your media, and you mentioned some of the things that as a young black man in America that you have to, go against a lot of the standards and the stigmas and the stereotypes being a believer in Christ, being a follower of God's word. And you said something that really stuck out to me in one of your reels. And you had specifically said that when you start to separate yourself from other people, God starts to show you who you really are. And
Mhm.
so, you know talking about some of the struggles that you're faced with, how are you able to, one, maintain your integrity, but also keep a level head and not fall into the temptations that are constantly around us?
I would say I will quote one of the one of our pillars here in the Dallas world of ministry by TD Jakes, who he said this back. I think I was like 20, 21, but I heard it from him just in just regular content. I don't know why it stuck with me as it did, but he said, "Well, when you have an understanding of who you are, you also know who you are not." And so when it came to, okay, how do you maintain integrity? How do you continue to remain consistent with who it is that you are? I had to also realize that this is theological. Like Jesus, he gets baptized by John, and literally God sky cracks, says, "This is my son in whom I am well pleased." Then he goes to an area where there is temptation. And the main area of temptation literally stems from an area where the devil is trying to get Jesus to question his identity.
Mm.
Like,
Good
if
God.
you are this, then do this. It is almost as if the devil is going to try to attack you in the area where you literally have received affirmation. And we think it's to cause us to dismantle the idea of what God just said, when the reality of it is God literally uses that very temptation. He's not doing it himself, he's not orchestrating it himself, but he's using it to literally reinforce the same idea. I got it from Dale Carnegie. He says if you argue with somebody, if they have a pre-existing belief, and then you try to combat that belief, all you're gonna do is reinforce it where they believe it harder.
Yep.
So now practically, right? How do we deal with, okay, how do I remain myself? First off, you got to be clear on who it is that you are. You cannot get who it is that you are from anybody, simply because the only way that the manufactured can understand its purpose, its call, and its identity is to go to the manufacturer.
Yep.
It's like you don't even. It's like no one else can tell you who you. It's like you didn't actually. There's only one person that says, "Before I formed you, I already knew you." Now,
That's
if the
God.
only person that knew me before I was even formed, he said before, not
Hmm.
while, not instantaneous, before I formed you. Oh, in my eyes, in my mind, you were known. If this is true, then if I want to know who it is that I am, let me go talk to the one that knows me, right? And so I really do believe that authenticity comes from clarity, and that clarity comes from proximity.
Mm.
If I'm going to be my
Ooh.
authentic self, I have to literally have clarity on who it is that I am. And that clarity on who it is that I am, proximity to God. And so when it comes down to the practical application of it, it really, on the front end, it kind of sucks, because you'll look at things that are still, they have not lost their appeal and they're still desirable. You'll just know that they're inconsistent with the character that God has called you to be.
Mm.
Like in college and even living in Dallas now, I wrestle with that pretty consistently. It's like, oh, this is appealing, this is desirable, and it looks good. It's like, Jermaine, that is not who you are. It ain't even that there's anything wrong with it. It just ain't who you are.
Hmm.
And so, really, just it all points back down to, once again, understanding who you are in Christ will allow you to navigate this world and be authentic and really be okay with the losses that you experience because of that authenticity.
Hmm.
It's like I'm not about to sacrifice authenticity to accommodate your desire for me to be something that I'm not. I, I just don't possess that ability to do that, even if we do have to lose relationships. Not to say that, because some people say that as if like people are dispensable. I was like, when God said, "Let us make man in our image," considering us a masterpiece, he's talking about everybody. So I can't act like you're not valuable, but
Yes,
it's like we just might be going in different directions, to say the least.
exactly. Yep. And that's a really good point because I feel like sometimes too when we have those God-sized dreams and those God-sized visions, it really opens your eyes to see who in your circle is really for you, who's not. And it gives you the like you said, the clarity to no matter what, you know who you are, and the closer that you remain to God, the closer you'll be to that vision. And as long as you know what it is, it's written plainly, so that those
Mhm.
that may read it can run with it. Then you understand, like, okay, it's bigger than what it is that's around me, or the circumstances that I'm going through, or the trials and tribulations that I'm dealing with, or the temptations that I'm being faced with. I have to stay the course, because if I don't stay the course, it's not. I think as believers, sometimes we always get caught up and think that it's about our salvation. Mm-mm. It's about the people that are connected to us. Like
Mm.
you don't realize the work that you're doing, how impactful it is, until you hear from someone that you didn't even think was watching you, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I see how you carry yourself with that with the creativity, with the authenticity and the proximity to God that you operate in, and it's inspired me to maintain my walk even when things got challenging." And then you hear their testimony, you're like, "Oh, okay, maybe I don't got it as bad as I thought I did." And you keep going and you keep
Yeah, man, that is true. You bring up a really good point about like the evangelical aspect of remaining authentic, because sometimes we only think about like the reward of being authentic for ourselves. And it's
hmm
like, well, it's like, nah, I mean, the most accurate depiction of the God in you only comes from you being the most authentic version of you. It's like you are literally, as we actually were talking about in church on Sunday, where it's like, we are a branch, we are an extension of the tree.
hmm
It means that if you want to have evidence of the tree, you literally have to be able to look at the branch. You have to be your authentic self in order for that to happen.
Right.
It's not even almost. It's literally selfish for us not to be, because of that evangelical component. I mean, us being authentic literally correlates with someone getting a well done, good and faithful servant, or potentially hearing, "Depart from me, you worker of iniquity," on the other side of being authentic. So it's like, if anybody needed incentive behind being authentic, think about those two statements that someone can hear when they stand before the Father. It'll probably make you be like, "Hey, if I lose friends, I lose friends.
hmm
At least somebody gonna get it well done."
Right. Right. And bro, this is great. So with especially the age that we're in right now, you you said it earlier. With being a speaker, even though it has its benefits, social media can almost be a huge detriment to you mentally, right? And spiritually. So with that, seeing the people in our spaces that are successful, like the content creators like Kai Sanat and I Speed or Duke Dennis, like those type of people that, are more secular, when when you see them, how are you able to remember, okay, this is my walk? Because it can be super captivating, right? Like you see all the people that the celebrities that they have on their shows, the
Mm,
lifestyle that they're living, the money, the glamour. It can get a little bit disheartening when in the situation for
yeah.
you, you're 19 and for 4 years you're doing this thing for free and you're like, oh man, I'm really passionate about it, but where's the money?
Yeah.
So how are you able to, again, just maintain that passion and realize that it's bigger than the glitz and the glamour?
Oh, I would definitely say it's a project. It's a product of the overall objective. Personally, I know that even growing up is like, okay, like he speaks well and he has this charismatic personality, and those things can be pretty captivating and entertaining. I'm not called to entertain nobody. My call is evangelical. Jesus told us, "Go and make ye disciples and teach and preach the gospel." So when I'm looking at the overall entertainers, sometimes I'm disheartened by it, because I was like, you guys are commanding a lot of time and attention and compensation, but the value that you're adding to the individual is entertainment. It's like there is no person that is going to be empowered by entertainment. There is no person that's going to grow closer to God through entertainment. Like when I'm posting content, when I am speaking, the thing in the back of my head always is how what is this in relation to the Great Commission? Because to your point, oh, I have been tempted to be entertaining sometimes, to be like, oh, this would be funny. Oh, this would be cool. Oh, this would get likes and this would get the views. And this right here, if we do this over an extended period of time, this will get other. And it's like there's a question that stops it all every time. Okay, in correlation with the Great Commission, what is this?
Mm.
There is no
Ooh.
middle ground. There is no, oh, well, it kind of contribute. You can't manufacture purpose from that. There's no way to manipulate it and be like, oh, well, it'll lead people to like, I entertain them. And then after I entertain them, I get their attention. Then I'm going to lead it into event. No, 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 no. No, your call in the line with the Great Commission, go and make ye disciples, preach and teach the gospel. If what you're doing is not correlating with that at the root of it, then it is not something you can't tell me God told you to do that.
Mm-mm.
Why would God tell you to do something that does not contribute to the last thing Jesus told us before he ascends? Like the Bible was not, he wasn't being cryptic.
No.
He wasn't saying, hey, when you get a chance. He didn't even pronounce the conditions that had to be present in order to follow that command. He said, go and make ye disciples, preaching and teaching the gospel. And I always take note of who he was talking to when he said that, because he was talking to disciples. He was talking to committed followers of Jesus Christ when he gave that command. And so it really makes me realize, even as a younger believer, is in order for me to align with the Great Commission, I literally have to become the person that is capable of aligning, which means I gotta have a certain level of commitment to this. That level of commitment, especially when it comes to because you got online ministry and you got boots on the ground ministry. Boots on the ground ministry is gonna command so much of your time and attention. We ain't even got time to really do entertainment like that anyway. It's like
Yeah.
you gonna get a call from somebody that's saying I'm struggling with this and I just did this week, and you just gonna be like, I was about to make a video. Let's pray, because
Hmm.
why did you do that? And why did you tell me after the that? That's why after the fact.
Yeah. Right.
Why it go repent now. Like go talk to God about it now. I
Hmm.
mean, I'm accountability for you on the front end.
Yes.
I'm supposed to be that layer of protection of, hey, you I'm gonna call it out. Hey, why would you talk some sense into you? After the
Hmm.
fact, I'm like, I mean, I'm gonna pray. We pray with you. I mean, it's done now. I ain't gonna. I can't condemn you. I mean, but
Hey.
yeah.
Right. 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 And man, you're just taking me back to when I first like really got saved because
Mm,
I didn't really grow up in the church. My parents took us to church every now and then, and it was more so like Catholic. So like when I was introduced to the Pentecostal experience, I'm like, oh, this is different. This is way different. So you know you you kind of have to go through those trials and tribulations and fall to really understand the position that you're in. You're like,
oh yeah.
okay, maybe falling on my face wasn't that bad the first time. Let me get back up, repent, ask God for forgiveness and keep it going. Because when you really think about it, one thing that I love that I'm starting to realize more and more now is
Mm,
we have a choice. God gave us free will. So if you're faced with something and you think you can't get out of it, God said He'll provide you with a way of escape. So
yeah.
you're making a choice to engage in it. And, you know, when we don't know that it's sin, then it's forgiven. But if we know it's sin and we keep on doing and going back to it, it's like a dog returned to its vomit. You have
Yeah.
at some point you have to wake up and be like, all right, let me take a step back and really reevaluate some things and get to the root of it. Like right now, I'm in grad school for like a mental health counseling, so I'm really starting to see the connection between the mind and the spirit, and how people
Mm,
sometimes will be in a place where they're blaming it on this when really it's this. You're blaming your lust on the things that you're dealing with in your flesh, when
yeah.
actuality there's some stuff that happened to you when you were younger deep down that you're repressing, and instead of bringing it before God, you keep on pushing it back and trying to satisfy with worldly things. And so
Mm,
now it's so crazy. Like going back to the whole discipleship thing, you don't realize how important of a task you are assigned to until you start discipling and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually do have to walk the walk and talk the talk because people are
Oh,
watching.
1000%. I mean, like, because anything that you do is going to give them permission to do it. Now, you obviously can be like, use wisdom. Like, but as much
Yeah.
as you can be like, look, I know I did this, but like, don't do it. It's not good. If they look up to you and they recognize this person is ahead of me and you struggling with this, they're going to find comfort in struggling with that same sin simply because now they know. Like, it's because there's a difference between I wrestle with this and I'm still falling into it.
Mm-hmm.
As men, there are biological factors that are going to create a wrestling, right? We would not be told to crucify our flesh daily. The crucifying of the flesh does not expire. If I
Mm-mm.
have to do it daily, that means that there's always going to be a desire that literally makes me being in this position make sense. You ain't
Yes.
you ain't nailing yourself up to that cross for no reason. No, 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 no. You're fighting something, right?
Yes.
So, but to your point, I mean, it definitely is when you're walking with people, even to your point where you said like you start to look at there's a deeper reasoning behind
Mm-hmm.
why you really doing this. It's not the superficial level of, oh well, because she just looked good and I just found myself in the wrong place at the wrong. It's like, nah, there's probably a belief system that you have adopted, but it came from an experience from your adolescence that has followed you into adulthood. And
Mm-hmm.
it really is valuable that you have the discernment to be able to see it, because if you're only trying to solve this problem at the level of the surface, so you're trying to fix the behavior of the hands when it's a heart thing. The hands got to follow the heart. So if I'm only looking at what you're doing with your hands and I'm never trying to diagnose heart, it's like, this is why, yes, give instruction, give wisdom, but also it's like I need to be interceding for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's only one person that can change this heart of yours. Like, but we got to be intentional with that time of prayer where we actually go to war in the spirit. Where I'm not just passively, Lord forgive them. No, extract every demonic ideology out of this boy's brain.
Yes.
Everything that causes him to think that this is okay, every thought that causes him to tell himself one more time, allow him to know on the front end that he lying.
Mm-hmm.
It's different now.
Oh yeah.
Now you start walking around, it's like, man, for some odd reason I ain't feel comfortable going. Mm, oh,
Yep.
for real? They wouldn't, you ain't want to talk to her no more. Why not? What happened? Oh, bro, some just start to feel it off. What you start thinking? I started looking at our relationship and I saw it wasn't gonna produce nothing. Oh,
What? Didn't I tell you that?
for real? So when you see it wasn't gonna produce nothing, what it starts to look like to you? A waste of time? The thing that we gotta find out amount of, and the thing that God is gonna ask you what you did with when you stand before him, that waste of time for sure. All right, so what we about to do with this time now? Because
Yep.
you got some more free time, machine, and your phone
Oh
come on.
man.
It's but to your point, we had to walk that out. Like I
Mm-hmm.
still deal with that now. It's very hard dating in Dallas. 'Cause you're like, oh, it's
Oh,
Dallas.
bro.
You got these people over here. I'm like, I will say it's not a challenge, especially if you have some sense and some standards and
Mm-hmm.
some substance. Sense,
Yes.
standards, substance. You're gonna find somebody with some corresponding attributes. And that is a potential person. Head on straight, foundational
Mm-hmm.
relationship with God, look good, checks boxes. Can you guys do life compatibly? Probably. Y'all probably can work that out. If I'm not getting vision, because I already know where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not getting vision of you going where I'm going, like if I can't see you in that foreseeable future, there's no point in me wasting your time right now.
No, sir.
You just look good. And I'm not diminishing the value of an outward appearance, but that was the function of the appearance was to draw my attention. But there's something drawing the attention is not the accomplishment.
Mhm. What's gonna keep me there?
Like like when it comes to even what I like married people I talk to, they literally say they gotta die to themselves daily. I said, that sounds like accelerated sanctification. That means your flesh should experience more crucifixion as a result of you being in a relationship with this person. Why are you in a relationship with somebody that's feeding your flesh and not crucifying it? Like it, it's different. Like it's it's different when your relationship with somebody romantically is causing you to say no to stuff that you used to say yes to.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But I said that is one of them telltale signs. It's like you probably done met one of them. If you become willing to do this on a daily basis on account of this person, yeah, stop wasting time.
Yeah. Lock in. As my little
You in
brother
your
keeps
mid
telling me, you
twenties,
gotta lock in. Yes.
you better go ahead and set some intention. Take them on the premarital counseling, and y'all better
Oh
y'all
my
better
gosh,
find
bro.
yourself a community.
Yo, you are spitting. Oh my gosh. And I think another thing that especially us men we have to realize is like you have to one, you have to be in the right season and you have to be in the right posture to be even diving into that. Like because I remember like it was like a couple months after, I got saved again. I'm like, I'm fasting, consecrating all the time. I'm reading my Bible. And then I started talking to this girl, and immediately all that stuff started to go out the window. And God had to bring me back. And I'm like, oh wait, hold on, wait. I was just screaming from the mountaintop salvation, and I can't even the first thing I'm doing in the morning is texting this girl, not picking up my Bible, not praying. I'm like, all right, yeah, I need to. This is a distraction. I gotta lock in, and
Yeah,
it takes. I'm telling you, it takes a little bit of wisdom after you go through something. You're like, oh, okay, that's what that is. When you know the tricks, the traps, and entanglements of the enemy, now you're better equipped to. All right, let me not maybe I do got to stay away from these scenes. Maybe I can't go to DC this weekend like how I wanted to. Maybe I can't go to
mhm,
that concert like how I wanted to because I know what's going to happen. And when you know your
yeah,
triggers, you can, one, figure out why it triggers you. And two, pick and choose which battles you're supposed to fight. It's
yeah, bro.
because
That's so. Now go ahead.
I, I was going to say, like, because there's certain things that are going to be a thorn in our side for the rest of our lives, but there's certain things that we should have control over.
Yeah, I mean, it's so powerful that you said it's like you have to know, like you have to know, like those tendencies, those triggers, because I really got it from. So my main area of study this week, well, really this month has been First Kings,
Mm,
right? I ain't gonna lie, it was
yes, sir.
Ecclesiastes. I just have an obsession with Solomon. I don't know why. I really don't. I just started reading Ecclesiastes and with First Kings. Now he in First Kings. I didn't even know he was in there. But I said, you know what? Let's go ahead and get some more wisdom. But he his greatest advantage, which we don't talk about, we always talk about he asked God for wisdom in First Kings chapter 3. He asked God for wisdom, and then he says, I want to be able to accurately administer justice across a people so vast. But that ask came from revelation of his limitation. Like
Hmm.
he literally says, how can I, little old me, adequately steward such a vast amount of people that's constantly growing? It's like he literally, it's like he was put in a situation where his limitation was put on display, and he was given the opportunity to literally one know who God was and say, God, I need you to give me wisdom. But he had to know his limitation. When it comes to us in daily life, especially when it comes to wrestle with temptations, I see two things that sometimes we trip up is sometimes some people will project their triggers on other people, and so it's like,
Hmm.
okay, just because this triggers you, now you're making it a universal rule, trying to give people dating advice, saying it's theological, and it's like, no, that's your triggers. I don't like unless you can point that in the text. I'm not following that. That's your tendencies, right?
Hmm.
I don't have to make my dating life complicated because you have pre-existing experience that gave you those triggers, right? But I also see the back end of it where some of us we like to be delusional. I can handle that. I'll be all right. You're not gonna be all right. You're not. Like now, are you gonna fall physically? No. But you know what's gonna be on your mind. Now,
And that's what
so
leads to the temptation, bro.
like because sometimes I've started to realize once again, being in Dallas, I went to school in Houston. I learned quickly. Oh, that first interaction is not where the devil trying to get you. The devil plays the long game sometimes. He's just trying to wear your willpower down
Down.
until you get to the right moment. Because it only take you that one time to fall. Now you got an appetite that you ain't supposed to have. I just
And
wanted you to have the appetite. All I did was allow you to keep feeding it, keep feeding it, keep feeding it. Fall. Now you got an appetite. See, because now it's like, because I started realizing for me personally, it's like by the time you recognize that it's a pattern, it's too late. You trapped.
mm,
Like by the time you recognize this is something I keep going back to, I keep going back to. Oh, now it's harder to deal with that now. Like versus on the front end, it ain't look like a it did not look like a pattern was gonna be coming. Over time, it's a pattern of behaviors. It's a setup. But we should be wise enough as men and humble enough to know, hey, I'm not about to fight a cosmic being. I'm not about to fight a cosmic being that's been here for millennia. He has a strategic advantage. He is known as the deceiver. He knows he was the original deceiver. He literally twists truth. He know how to make truth sound like truth.
yes.
Stop playing with it. It's like stop playing. Yes, we have the authority. Yes. Resist the devil and he will flee. Resist, not entertain. It's the reason why God was like, you gonna have to just you can't play with that adversary. You gotta cut stuff off if it makes you sin. It ain't nothing to play with. Like you don't have the willpower. You don't. So it's definitely it's a hard fight to fight. But I mean, to your point, like knowing your triggers, it takes humility to know that. Because like I said, I don't know about you, but personally, I used to be delusional. But I'm all right. Now I'm over here at this altar crying, asking for prayer because I
Hmm.
wasn't all right. God,
Yeah.
I don't want to be like this anymore.
And then go right
Before,
back to doing the same thing, bro. Yep. Look, I fell short too. That was my shortcoming.
I'm, it's like because I feel like sometimes God be like, before you was crying in your closet at 2 a.m. asking that I remove this desire, I gave you instruction before there was a need for intercession.
Hmm.
Like, oh, you need divine intervention. You know what I was giving you before divine intervention? Instruction.
Instruction.
Before I had to intervene and begin to reorient your heart, all I told you was just don't go over there. God, it's 8 p.m. Yeah, it's gonna start at 8 p.m., but you're not gonna get home until 3 p.m. That's gonna be a dangerous 7 hours. So just don't go over there.
Mm-mm.
But it's not wrong for regular people. But for you, you gotta it's the season that you in. That just ain't something that you needed. It don't make sense. It don't have to make sense. Because you see to the corner, I see around it. I see the cycle. That's why just don't go, just don't do it. You'll be
Just
all
don't do
right.
it.
So it's a fun walk, you know?
Yeah, yeah, very. I always say it's a walk of introspection because you have to do a lot of inward looking and address a lot of the mean, ugly, and nasty in order to get to the good and the holy.
Yeah.
And it
Keyword
ain't
is
always gonna
addressing
be
it.
perfect. It's not gonna be perfect. You're not gonna be perfect. You're gonna fall short. But it's what you do when you fall. Are you able to pick yourself back up and not stay there? Because one thing about the enemy, once he got a hold of you, especially once he taps into that mind and starts beating your head between the wall and the washer and the dryer, now you know like okay, yeah, I gotta get free from this because if not, it's gonna be even tougher. It's gonna be even tougher.
Yeah. Man, it is so true. It's definitely, I mean, it's even to your point, like when it comes to it does become a bit more simple when you are walking with people because the instruction and insight that you giving them, you start looking as like if I'm saying it, one, I know it. That means I have no choice but to follow it. I'm disclosing the fact that I know it. I can't even act ignorant.
Yeah.
That's which, like I said, that's it's the fun part. It's like okay, once you say it, just make sure that every action is consistent with that. Now everybody's gonna fall short. That's fine. Well, it's not fine, but that happens because you're a human condition. But once you say it, that's the standard. Like your understanding, that's standard now. You can't really act like, oh well, I just wanted to every now and mm-mm. Not when somebody's salvation on the line. Nah.
Oh. And perfectly perfect way to wrap all that up is once you establish the standard, you got to stand on it.
Mm.
It has to be a solid foundation.
Yeah,
You can't be shifting and going this way and that way. You can't be double minded because people are relying on you. I feel like that's the common theme for this interview. People are counting on you to
yeah,
show up, no matter how it looks like. Like the couple, I think it was a couple months back, we were on a Bible study,
mm,
and we we're reading on when John was beheaded, and Jesus
mm,
got the news of it, and still had to go and feed these people, like
yeah,
even though it doesn't explicitly state it, in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine someone that like that I loved and spent time with just died, and I don't even have time to grieve because there's work to be done. And it taught me something. I'm like, it doesn't matter what you're going through. You just have to, because our body isn't strong enough, our minds aren't strong enough, our hearts aren't strong enough. But it, as it says in His word, when we're weak, He is strong. He's our strength. He's our source of strength.
yeah,
So you just have to lean on that. And I'm like, wow, that's insane. That you know, through all that, Jesus was still able to maintain his composure because I could, from a psychological standpoint, I can't even imagine what he was thinking because that's a lot.
yeah. And it wasn't no friendly death. It was gruesome. Then that was his John. Like John and Jesus in the womb, they jumped like just being close to each other. Like that was not some passive relationship.
Mm-hmm.
John the Baptist baptized Jesus. Like
It's a deep connection.
this wasn't no casual. But I think to your point, it highlights the reality of when people say, "Oh, I want to do ministry, I want to lead people, I want to really pour into people." Okay, because social media has glamorized when it
Oh,
looked like so much. I'm like, I the social media post ain't even the tip of the iceberg. Like
mm-mm,
I said, there's a reality that you're gonna be wrestling with. And it's moments like that where you have to be so missional minded that even your emotions aren't the priority anymore.
mm-mm.
Like and Jesus has to understand this because obviously I know he felt them. If he wept, if he wept when Lazarus passes, he obviously knows how to feel emotion. He's sweating blood in the Garden of Gethsemane. He know how to feel emotions. You can't tell me he don't feel a type of way about John.
Yeah,
He literally, while he's being crucified, literally asks that God forgive them for they know not what they do.
they
You can't
do.
tell me he don't feel them. He felt sorry for them in that moment because he's like, they don't even know they don't know who they crucifying. And in the same moment, he has the understanding to know my emotions are not the priority in this moment. Not to say that they're not important, because sometimes we'll be like, oh, if it's not I'm like, we're not saying that it's not important. But when you're missional minded, there's a set of actions and priorities. These people got to get fed. Because
Yes.
I have a nagging suspicion that salvation probably has the highest precedent over how you feel, what you're thinking, what you're going through. Whatever you're feeling is gonna pass. But there's eternity on the line. So when we're like, oh, I want to do this. I'm like, are you ready for that? Like, are you ready? Are you ready to literally, while grieving, be pouring into people, bleeding and leading? Because that's the reality of that level of leadership. There is no. I was like, look, you know, Transformation Church made it all look real pretty. All of us, we grew up. Like, I ain't gonna fake it. Transformation Church started blowing up. We was, I think I was like early 20s, teens.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm like, well, I want to end up doing that. Da 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 da. Walking into the reality of it, 25, 26.
Yeah.
The sacrifice, like, if you gonna follow me, you're gonna have to take up your cross and follow me. And they gonna hate you just like they hated me. This a losing game.
Oh man, is
Paul,
it?
to die is gain.
And
If
it's
you persecute
perplexing.
me, if you persecute me, I'm proclaiming Jesus. If I die, I'm going to go be with Jesus. You got to be a madman to have that mindset. And we walk around, I want to do that. Nah, it ain't a desire, it's a call.
Mm-hmm.
Corporate
Well said.
America look a lot more fun, but my fulfillment is not in what's gonna be fun.
Mm-mm.
Pockets full, heart empty. Nope, got it. The call. Once again, walking with Jesus is fun. That's what they told us. That's what they told us.
Got to pick up your cross and run with it. Once you put your hand on that plow, there's no looking back. There's no looking back. Got to stay the course. Sheesh. Hey, look, I feel like we've covered a lot. I didn't even realize it. We're 50 minutes in.
I'd say that
But
time gonna fly.
oh man, this was good. This was really good. If you could leave one thing to the young men, the young women that are tuning in, that are listening to this, like what's one piece of advice that you would give to them as they, whether they just started their walk, whether they've taken a walk and they've, kind of backslid a little bit.
Mhm.
What would you tell them to, keep them focused on the task at hand?
Mm. What I would tell them to keep them focused on the task at hand. Hmm. I would break it down, and I would say that um, keep your eyes focused on what the win is. And I say that simply because, once again, Jesus told us, "Go and make ye disciples, preaching, teaching, and proclaiming the gospel." It is our life's mission to do that. And it is our life's mission to equip others to be able to do it as well. And so, when it comes to the task at hand, especially when it comes to remaining focused, audit every activity that you are giving your time, energy, and effort to, and ask yourself the question, what is this in relation to that? I guarantee you, if you have said yes to the Great Commission, there are a lot of things that you're going to have to say no to. Not not try to create a coexistence between what you desire and what God has commissioned. No, 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 no. You gonna have, because you've said yes to this, and if you're a follower of Jesus Christ, you literally said yes to this. Get down and understand what you're gonna have to say no to. Because walking with Jesus and being in a focused manner and consistent, it's gonna cost you something. Just be ready to lose. So I know that's not the glamour, but it's like that's the reality of following Jesus. I think that in
Yes.
for the United States, for us, we gotta new believers, we gotta tell them the reality of this now. We setting unrealistic expectations and people walking around confused and they defected from the faith because of it.
Hmm.
The reality of it is we playing a losing game, but to die is gain.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
it's worth your life. It really is. It's worth that. To devote your entire being to this call. It literally is worth it. So that would be my biggest word of advice. It's just simply that.
Hey, Jermaine, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. A lot of value out of this interview, and I feel like it's definitely going to help a lot of people. Um, if you guys want to connect with Jermaine, he is on Instagram. His Instagram tag is I am Jermaine Holt. You will be able to find that down in the description below. So if you have any questions for him, if you need to book him for any of it, speaking engagements that you might have, he's your man for the job. Once again, brother, thank you so much for coming on. I greatly, greatly appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. We definitely got to stay connected too.
Oh, for sure, bro. It's gonna happen.
For sure, my guy. It was good talking to you, man. Definitely, man. Really a blessing.
Yes, sir.